Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. We're back with another podcast, and this week we have some really exciting features. We have some new features that we're going to be bringing to you, along with our traditional features. And of course, we are here with our my two co-hosts, South Philly Lou and Rick, and we're going to be talking about, of course, the big game coming up. But first, I'd just like to have everybody say hello. So, Rick, how about if you say hello to the folks at home?
How are the folks at home this week? We're ramping up for our Super Bowl predictions and our big Super Bowl week. I know it's an exciting week for everybody.
Lou?
I'm keeping the jersey on till Sunday after the game.
You're not taking it off, Lou?
Not even going to shower.
Oh, man, he's excited, Rick. Well, I'd like to start the podcast by revisiting something that came up last week. The podcast has really started to take hold. People are really, really getting into it. And we're getting a lot of comments on the feed and some of the things that people have said. And it gets really comical, some of these points that people are bringing out. But one of the things that I did hear is from a very famous football coach, local famous football coach, who's personally friends with Coach Fangio, Coach Mora from, you remember Coach Mora, Rick. He used to coach the Indianapolis Colts and,
Sure.
of course, the New Orleans Saints. And this local coach is close friends with those guys. And he heard the podcast, and he called me. And he wants to make an appointment with you because
With me?
with you, because he does not believe that you can actually jump backwards over another human being. In fact, the coach is willing to bet that you'll have a hard time jumping forward over a stick. So I just thought I'd like to tell you that and see what your thoughts are, Rick. If you could share those with everybody.
It's actually shocking to me, but I do wonder, did I say that I could jump backwards over a human being now, presently?
As a matter of fact, you did, Rick. You said you're 60 years old. You can go out in the backyard right now and jump over. I found it hard to believe myself, but that's what you said.
I'm not sure that I could jump over a human being. I might have been exaggerating a little bit at this time, but I know back in the 70s, I personally have done it, and I've seen friends of mine do it. And the whole point of that conversation was I just don't think that Saquon Barkley backwards hurdle was that big of a deal. Did Coach think that that was a big deal?
He
I mean,
really
he's
did.
seen a lot of football.
Yeah, and Rick, I just want to say I was in those games back in the 70s with you in your backyard. And for the record, I never saw you jump backwards over anybody, including the Crayons.
You probably did. You just probably weren't that impressed at the time because it's really not that big a deal. It didn't stay in your memory. It certainly didn't get the publicity that Saquon has gotten for a move that probably 9 out of 10 running backs in the NFL could do. There was no purpose to the move. I have to admit, it fires me up. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of looking at it. We're probably going to hear about it all day Sunday.
Oh, we definitely are. Now, speaking of Sunday, let's ask you, Lou, before we go back to Rick or I. Have you noticed any trends that the audience can pick up on in terms of getting ready for their big bets? Or, even if they're not big bets, but they're betting like for pride and things of that nature, or things in the office where I'm going to bet you I'll do your work for a week, or I'll buy you lunch for a week, or whatever it turns out to be. Have you noticed any trends that you can point to people to say, this is the way it's going. I like the way this looks because of this, and therefore I'm going to pick that team. Have you noticed anything like that, Lou?
I've been seeing a lot. And let me tell you, first of all, I don't agree with anything that Rick said there. Not 9 out of 10 of those guys could be hurdling over people like that. Would love to see that with Rick. But here's the big thing that I want to tell you. This is what I've been noticing. Everyone thinks that it's going to be a massive over game. People are thinking everyone's going to be scoring so many touchdowns in this game. I've been looking online. I've been hearing from friends. I've been talking to people, seeing online on Twitter, and it's the same story. Massive touchdowns, Mahomes in the fourth quarter. No one's going to be able to stop Barkley. But the trends that I'm starting to go with now is going to be Rick's system. I'm going the opposite. That's what I'm seeing with this. This is going to be a low-scoring game. I'm going totally the other way.
How about you, Rick? You noticing anything out there yet?
The only thing I'm noticing, and I'm interested to hear if you and South Philly Lou are hearing the same thing. I'm starting to lean towards and feel as if the trend is that Kansas City just can't be beat. And I don't know how strong I'm hearing it, but I feel like maybe it's heading that way. Have you seen that in your data, Lou? Have you seen that in your numbers?
Right now, they're still favored, and that's the point. And I just looked online, and before every single analyst picked Kansas City to win. Rick, I could go with my heart in this game, but if I remove the bias from myself, everything is going towards the Eagles. Everything in your system is leaning perfect towards an Eagles upset and under in this game, a defensive genius game by this Rick Fangio, and it's going to be unbelievable to see.
I agree with you guys. I think that everything I've seen so far is that Mahomes can't be beat. That he's kind of
Yep.
got he's got a cape on. He's like Superman. And in the fourth quarter, if the game is close, Mahomes will find a way to win it. And the other person that they give a lot of credit to, rightfully so, by the way, is Travis Kelce. And let me just tell you, as an Eagle fan, I am sick and tired of Taylor Swift. I've had it up to here with her. If they put her on the TV on Sunday, I might have to throw something at the screen.
Oh, she's going to
listen,
be on there.
Outside the football parameters, and as an Eagle fan, I'm a big fan of Taylor Swift. My daughter's a Swiftie, my wife's a Swiftie. I like her music, but please with it already. I've had enough. Don't show me Taylor Swift 10 times in this game, or I'm going to have to do something about it. What do you think, Rick?
Well, I'll say this. I'd rather see Taylor Swift than Saquon Barkley hurling backwards again.
You think that's a better, more impressive feat?
Yeah, I'd rather see Taylor Swift 2-1 over that silly play again.
Come on.
It's in my crop. But I will say this: back to the game, though. Back to the game, because I'm torn at where I'm heading with this. I do have a website that right now the percentage is substantial on the Eagles.
Really?
Yes.
When you say percentage, what does that mean?
Well, it basically right now on this particular website, 70, I believe 2% of the public is backing the Eagles.
Ah.
And it's just as high on the money line too.
So that's kind of the opposite of what Lou is reporting. What he's seeing, the opposite. We're seeing everybody's going Kansas City.
Yep, total opposite.
Well, and the key is back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, as I've talked about before. You really had to work for that information. So sometimes I wonder if there's stuff out there that flat out isn't true.
Well, around here where we live, it's very pro Eagle. Is it the site you're at? Is it a local site?
No, it's a national site. But I think the casual fan is leaning Kansas City.
Okay, I do too.
Would be scared. This year, I would be scared. I'm removing all bias, and I'm just saying that this Eagles team is better, and that this Kansas City team, the Saquon Barkley, is the only hope at stopping the three-peat. He's the only hope at stopping Taylor Swift from being shown every single game and the dynasty that's going to be going on and all of the sports memorabilia that is going to be sold from the three-peat with this and Taylor Swift. No way. The Eagles have to win this game for all of society. Jalen Carter.
This guy's he's gonna hit Pat Mahomes so hard. Mahomes' wife is gonna feel it. I'm telling you right now, he's gonna knock him out of the game. But I want to get to our next segment here because I want to keep this moving. It's about bad Super Bowl parties. And so I started, Rick and I were talking, and we decided we needed a new feature on the podcast. And so what we decided to do was go out on the street and interview some people. And the topic of our interview this week was bad Super Bowl parties. And so I was able to run into a very spirited person who gave us a very spirited response to, have you ever been to a bad Super Bowl party? And so I'd like to play it for you guys because I know you haven't heard it yet because I just ran into this person today and get your reactions to what she has to say.
Terrific.
Ma'am, can I ask you a few questions for my podcast?
You're not casting me in nothing.
No. What's your name?
Penelope.
It's just a quick question. It's for the internet.
No, I'm too busy.
Wait, please, Penelope. The captain said you have to do it.
Look, I came all the way down here from the Poconos for my DWI hearing, and I just got a huge fine. I really don't have time. I've got my own problems.
Please, Penelope, let me just ask. Have you ever been to a bad Super Bowl party?
Yeah, last year, I got stuck sitting next to Corky, and he stunk. Finally, I said, Corky, you stink. Let me look at you. And then I says, my God, you shit your pants. Well, I got the hell out of there right quick. I missed overtime and everything.
Really?
Why do you think I got this DWI? He stank. Where's my car? I'm out of here.
Maybe we're going to have to make Penelope a regular contributor on the show. I was able to secure Penelope's name and phone number afterwards, so maybe we can call her back, get her position on what happened at the Super Bowl party this year, if she actually goes to one. I was just wondering, has anybody had a similar circumstance like Penelope at a Super Bowl party?
Nothing. I can honestly say nothing like that. Nothing like that. I actually spend most of my Super Bowls with my wife, focused on the game.
Lou?
Yeah.
I spend every one of my Super Bowls trying to get the best food possible to eat it the whole time. This year, though, is completely different. I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat in this game. My heart is so in this game, I can't eat already. And that has been the focal point of every Super Bowl that I have, a huge party.
It seems to me every time I go to a Super Bowl party, I always get stuck next to someone who wants to talk. And they don't stop talking. I remember I was at the one where Tom Brady was behind 28-3. I think that was the score. And I was very interested in seeing whether or not Tom could bring the team back, right? Because I'm a Tom Brady fan. And this person did not stop talking. The only time this person stopped talking was during the commercials because they wanted to watch the damn commercials. And I wanted to watch the football game. And so I have reserved now back to where Ricky is. I'm 58 years old. And now I've decided, you know what? I'm better off staying home and watching the game with my wife than going to Super Bowl parties. A friend of mine, Pat, and I have watched probably 25 Super Bowls. There's only been, 59? Pat and I have watched 25 of them. And I'd sit and watch a Super Bowl with Pat any day of the week. But when you go to these parties, Rick, sometimes you get stuck next to people like poor Penelope. Or maybe it's poor Corky. I'm not sure. What do you think, Rick?
I'll tell you what, Dan, I'm glad you brought up that game. As a matter of fact, talk about being stuck next to people. I've been on 3 cruises for the Super Bowl. And that particular game, you know I'm not a Tom Brady guy. Okay, and I have to give my wife a lot of credit on this prediction. We're watching the game in a theater of probably about 1,000 people.
That sounds like fun.
It was actually a great time on the big screen. But there was a big Patriot fan, okay? And this Falcon guy was all over him and abusing him when they were out to the lead. It was so bad, I thought there was going to be a fight. It got so ugly, this man had to get up and leave. Late in the game, I said to my wife, this game is over. There's no way they're coming back. To give her credit, she looked at me and said, that's Tom Brady on the other side of the field. Sure enough, she was right, but where I give this man credit is he never gloated after his team came back and win. I would have came back. I would have been dancing all over that ship. I would have searched that man out and danced on his grave.
South Philly, what would you do in that situation?
I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you that right now.
I know, but if you came back and then if you were Rick's friend there, what would you have done? Would you have been gloating?
No, I wouldn't be. I'm ready. Listen, right now I'm ready for this game to start. I'm ready for this right now.
But I'll tell you what has me concerned, Dan, if I can interject.
Sure.
In our conversation here, as far as making my pick, I'm not sure that Lou isn't confident in his heart that the Eagles are going to win the game, which I got to be honest would lean me towards the Chiefs, as you know. I think he's quietly confident, and he's trying to pretend like he isn't. I'm not sure he's making a legitimate Eagles pick, and he's not just going with his heart.
Well, we didn't get to the picks yet, but I get what you're saying. He's giving off a strange vibe tonight, kind of, don't you think?
He definitely is, yeah. Like, I don't think he could separate the two.
You
So,
don't think?
Philly Lou, are you telling me that you can separate your Eagles fandom and make an actual pick on this game?
Rick, I don't know. I'm going to try, but I'm telling you, all the other physical things are happening. Like I could feel the anxiety, the nervousness. I remember talking last year on our podcast where we said we could never bet against Mahomes. But what could we do? And here it is again. It's Mahomes. If it was anybody else, the Bills, the Ravens, it doesn't matter. I would be full blown confident in this game and running up the score. It is just Mahomes in this game. I want to see if the Eagles could get it done. I'm going to be nervous from now until Sunday after the game.
Well,
Well,
we
Rick,
know last year the
sorry.
49ers was the play.
Oh, no,
You're
we
not
cannot.
going back to
No
that, are
way.
you?
Mahomes should not have won that game.
Nah, he did. I know they had, well, listen, I know the 49ers had a little bit going in that game, but it was never out of reach. Mahomes was there the whole time. I really am looking forward to something like the Eagles and the Commanders game. I want it blown away from the beginning.
Rick,
Don't
we're not
even
going
give
back
this
to
guy
that.
a minute to breathe.
He's going back to the 49ers play one more time. I don't want to revisit it. We revisited it last year on the show after the Super Bowl where we really pulled up all your thoughts and quotes and everything and let you have it, Rick. And I think you should just let that one go. Just let it go, Rick.
I'm
Let
having
it
a
go.
hard time letting that one go, but all right, let's move on.
Let it go. But it does bring up my next topic, though, Rick, which is your Super Bowl record. I want you to remind the fans, even though you had a stumble last year, which you still don't acknowledge, or you won't accept the fact that you made the wrong call. I believe last year you told us that you were 30-3 going into that week, and then of course you lost that game, so now you're 30-4 in Super Bowls. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. Yep.
And Rick, what do you attribute that success to? Where do you get that? That's an overwhelming number.
I
Overwhelmed.
believe it's the system I have of going against the public.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to be on Vegas's side. You
Yeah.
want to have who Vegas has. You want to have who your local bookie has. That's who you want to be with. And when the public is focused on one game, they get it wrong 30 out of 34 times.
Well, I don't know about that. I think your system is a little antiquated. I think it's dead. I think your system is dead. I don't think it works anymore.
No.
I think that proof is in the pudding. I know that you were below 500 using your system in our contest this year until we switched you over to the Warlock, and then you began to win. So your system is dead, Rick. It just doesn't work anymore.
My system nailed the 2 championship games, and if you're being honest with
So
yourself,
did the Warlock.
if you're being honest with yourself, my system got you off the Bills and onto the Kansas City Chiefs.
I think you're right about that. As I recall, I was wavering, but what happened was the Warlock picked a tie in that game, right? Isn't that right?
Yes.
And so I was kind of left with where should I go with my bet? And you and I talked, and you convinced me that you were right. So I went with the Chiefs, and we won that bet.
Who does
Correct.
the Warlock have in this game?
Well, I want to ask you beforehand. I get to the Warlock's pick because we're going to wrap this up here. Who is America for in this game? You know how you see those graphics when
Yeah.
Notre Dame was playing Penn State.
Yeah.
They put a helmet over Pennsylvania for the Nittany Lions. They put a helmet over, I think it was Indiana for Notre Dame, and then they had like green and blue in the different segments of the country for who the country was for. But I would think that the only people in the country that aren't rooting for the Eagles are from Kansas City. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I think that the Eagles are clearly America's favorite. They want this dynasty to end. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, that is true as a whole. But why on the big sites that I've seen that people are putting the money on Mahomes?
Never mind the money. I'm just asking you, where's America's heart?
Everybody
in this
needs
game?
the Eagles to win to stop this dynasty. I tell you what, Tom Brady even wants and is rooting for the Eagles because it's going to kill his legacy with Mahomes getting this three-peat that Brady never did. Everyone's rooting for the Eagles.
I was watching a show the other night, and I noticed the Steelers went back-to-back, and then the next year, Franco and Rocky Blyer and Terry Bradshaw got hurt. The 49ers went back-to-back, and then Joe Montana got crushed by Leonard Marshall in the championship game, he went out of the game. I think Steve Young might have come in, but they lost in the championship game. So getting back to the Super Bowl by Mahomes is quite the feat. But Rick, where do you think America's heart is?
Well, I feel like I have a strong feel for that. I told you how I feel about the last game. If both teams could lose, I'd be thrilled. But as far as America's heart, it's got to be with the Eagles. Everybody has had enough of the Kansas City Chiefs. They've had enough of not just Kelsey, but the Kelseys, your
Yeah.
guy, your center,
No, I'm sick of them.
which I'll never forget that retirement speech, but that's a story for another podcast. But everybody's with the Eagles, I believe. They're tired of the Chiefs.
I love Jason Kelsey, but it's too much with the Kelseys already. They're everywhere, and then you throw in Taylor Swift on top of it. I mean, come on.
I don't mind Taylor. Truthfully, I don't have a problem with Taylor Swift's publicity, being at the game. To be honest with you, it's a nice relationship.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I just that they put it right in your face all the time.
I want to see Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. I want to see AJ Brown.
Can we see Jalen Hurts' girlfriend?
Listen, you're right. You're right about it. But the people
Saquon's fiance,
they're coming here to watch. They want to see some big bets. People want to know what are the predictions. What's going to happen in this game?
So I am going to announce the Warlocks pick at this time.
This is big.
Now, as everybody knows, I finished up the season about 27 games over 500 using the Warlock as my barometer, as my picker.
Here it is.
And I'm here to tell you that with the Eagles as a 1.5 point underdog, the Warlock is on the birds.
Oh,
baby.
This is huge. This is big.
On the birds.
Double down. This is big.
Take the birds and the 1.5, and even the Warlock says, bet the birds on the money line.
What does
They're
it have to score?
Outright. He has to score 25-18. He also says, take the under.
What I say? What I say?
Rick knows the Warlock isn't the greatest on the under-overs. He really isn't, Rick.
Oh, I'm going under Warlock.
I agree. The Warlock was definitely shaky on totals. There's no doubt about that. Surprisingly shaky in comparison to how well he does analyzing the game itself.
All right, so Louie, I'm going to turn it over to you. Give us your prediction score, who's going to win the game, and if you have any props you want to throw out there.
There's going to be a big one that I want people to take. It's at plus 800 right now that I saw. I'm going plus 800. It's going to be the opposite of what happened last year when the defense for Kansas City had Hurts fumble and take it to the end zone. You're going to see one of the Eagles this year score a defensive or a special teams touchdown in this game. I see A.J. Brown and Smitty getting a lot of receptions on the side, and I think they're going to bring in the box, and it's going to be shut down Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts gets this done. Eagles defense gets this done. The under 49 is the play, and the Eagles money line. Jalen Hurts MVP for the Eagles after the game. South Philly lose predictions. That's a six play parlay.
Rick?
Boy, I'll tell you what. I have a hard time making predictions this early. But for the sake of the show here, but I am going to say this. I'm leaving open to a change that I will announce to you guys prior to the game, and that if I make a change, we could discuss that on the next podcast.
Okay.
My prediction for today is going to be this. It's going to go over the total.
Wow.
Saquon Barkley will rush for over 140 yards.
Wow.
And the Eagles will lose the game.
Wow.
It's a Kansas City win, and it's a 3-peat.
Oh, my God, Rick.
How could you do that to us?
Hard to hear that from Rick.
I feel like the public feels it can't happen.
Wow.
That they're not going to 3-peat. I feel like the Eagles, as I said last week, pound for pound are the better team. You two have preached to me for years not to bet against Mahomes. I feel like you're both going with your heart.
I,
You
I know.
convinced me not to bet against Mahomes, and I'm buying into it. I say Mahomes gets the three-peat, and the Eagles win a high-scoring affair.
It sounds to me like you're trying to set us up for when you're wrong and Mahomes blows this. You're going to come back on the next podcast and say to us, "I listened to you guys." I
Oh,
don't think you're going to
wow.
get away with that, Rick.
Oh,
This
wow.
is
Thank you.
your pick.
Thank
I'm
you.
not. I'm not trying to set anything up for the future.
Don't go blaming me.
Other than I am open to changing my pick, which I will let you both know prior to kickoff.
Now
Can we get
everybody
your
knows
prediction now?
he just picked. He picked
No,
the
yours.
Chiefs. Oh, I've taken the Eagles.
Eagle, but
So
we want a little parlay. Can you give us 6 things about like I did?
I'm really not into the parlays. I would kind of agree with what you
Just
said
for
about
some of the people to see.
Yeah, I think that A.J. Brown is going to have a pretty big game like he did in the championship game because I do believe that Andy Reid will try to stop the run. But Andy's a little smarter than Dan Quinn of the Commanders. He knows that it's hard to – if you can stop Saquon, not give him the 50, 60-yard run, touchdown runs, but make Saquon go 6 yards in a cloud of dust, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, that those things are killers too, but they don't kill you dead like a 70-yard bomb to A.J. Brown. So I think Andy will try to slow it down. And I do think that AJ will be open, Devontae Smith will be open, and whatever those numbers are on the overs for those guys, I would bet the
50.
overs.
AJ Brown 70, Devontae Smith is 50, Goddard is 50.
Devontae Smith is a lock at over 50 for sure. AJ Brown, I think he's probably a lock at over 70. I don't see the Eagles losing the game like Rick does. I think
What about
that,
Jalen Hurts over 50 yards rushing?
I would take the under on that. I would also say that the MVP of the game is very likely to be Saquon Barkley.
Wow.
I think, like Rick says, he's a media darling. They want Saquon to be if he has any kind of a game, they're going to want to give him the MVP. And I do say that my man Jalen Carter here is going to rip the hide off of Mr. Mahomes.
I want to see a sack.
His wife is going to feel it.
There will be a defensive score, I believe.
That's a big
I have two things I'd like to add if we have the time here.
Okay.
Is there truth to the fact that Carter is extremely ill and missing practice?
That's true.
No.
It's very true. Yes,
No.
that is true. No,
They
it's
just
true.
have that there so he doesn't say anything stupid in the media and that he just literally is ready for this game day. And last year is when they said Chris Jones said he was sick before the game and they went and had a Super Bowl and he had a monster game. It's all strategy.
Okay. And you were on the inside there, as we know.
Yeah. Big Dom.
The other thing I would like to say, and this goes out to our very good friend of the show, our local coach, Sirianni will cost the Eagles the Super Bowl
Hope not.
with either poor time management or a couple terrible decisions during the game.
Well, the
Sirianni will cost the Eagles the Super Bowl.
Coach did tell me to have him leave him at Pat Steaks in Philadelphia.
Be a smart move.
Leave Coach Sirianni at Pat Steaks in Philadelphia. Well, that's all for now, everybody. We will be back very, very soon, hopefully next Friday, with a new edition, the post-Super Bowl edition of the podcast. And looking forward, last year we told you we would do some NCAA basketball and some golf. And that's what we plan to do. We really would like to get this as a regular segment. So if you like the podcast, I want you to hit like on wherever you're listening to it at, and also subscribe so that when we do put a new podcast out, that you will get notification of it, because we really enjoy doing it. And we need a lot of people. If you like it, spread it to everybody, tell everybody. And listen, I promise you, Penelope will be back. But Rick, I think if we could get Corky, there might be another side to that story. Do you know what I'm saying?
There may be.
You know,
the problem could have been Penelope. Let's be honest.
It seemed to me when I met Penelope with the big red hair, and she was like disheveled and ready to roll. She was like all over the place. It might not have been Corky.
We all know a couple of Penelopes.
Yes, we do. Bye, everybody.
Enjoy the game.